Welcome. Glad to have you with us today. This is the CRO Team View session. It's your opportunity to meet revenue science professionals who've been certified in Chief Revenue Officer thinking, and they're available to work with you or your company in how to put revenue science at your back instead of having it in your face all the time. So today we're really fortunate to have Rion Westfall with us. Rion is somebody I've known for about 5 years, and he's my guy that when I have something that needs to be deployed and executed, he's the person I turn to. You know, many of us who run businesses, we believe in our products, we believe in our services, we believe we have a good strategy, yet sometimes things just don't turn out the way we expected. And when we take a step back, that's really normally about an issue in deploying and executing that strategy or that product. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to Rion Westfall today. Rion, welcome.
Thank you, Rick. Glad to be here.
Well, we've been working together off and on for a long time, and I think you've been certified about 3 years. So, this is great to be able to introduce you to the rest of the world.
No, I'm looking forward to it.
So, since I've known you for a while and I've seen you in different business situations, it's clear to me that you do what you do for something much more than the money. You do what you do because you have some kind of passion around making your client's world better. Can you share a little bit about what drives you and what makes this important to you?
What makes it important to me? My clients, all those, as you know, I've been around a host of numbers of different peoples and different industries, different countries, all of those types of things. And it's interesting that you use the word passion. When I think of the word passion, I think of a fire, right? And that fire just I don't know if I was born with it or whatever, but that competitive spirit, I love to win. I love to go in any organization, any team, and just be successful and win whatever it is and wherever it is we go. And so, as I was thinking about that word passion, two different things come to mind. One is, that on the fire side, you can have a fire that's destructive, that's devastating, and then you can have a fire that is focused. Think of a refinery, something that's refining a gold or a silver, that's removing the impurities, things of that nature. So the fire aspect, that passion, I actually just love that word that you use to describe our dealings with, how we treat our clients and how we progress the success of our clients, because I really do love that. I mean, from that aspect, that fire can be harnessed, it can be put together to where it's helping refining, it's helping to purify the ambitions and the goals, and as you're so eloquent in doing, the strategies of companies in moving those things forward. So I know in my world, I really love, I love to win, I love to progress, and to be balanced. My wife, she's a dietitian, and one of the very first things I'll never forget, when I first met her, we were talking about, how many cookies you should eat or something like that. And she looked at me and she says, well, moderation in all things. And just kind of thought about that. I mean, that's just a lesson I've used in life, right? I mean, moderation in all things. So whether it's personally or whether it's in business, I mean, I love being around people. I love just associating with people's lives and their stories. And, business is just one of those things that we kind of do on the side sometimes. But I do love focusing those passions, focusing those fires, and why an entrepreneur started their business and being able to grow that.
Well, I'm glad to hear the way you presented that. Having known you, I've seen that passion. Now I have kind of a story to go with it. I'm not going to forget the fire piece. That's really well visioned for me. So thank you. As you think about it, and you mentioned you've been lots of places. I mean, your career has taken you all over the world. and you've done a variety of different things that, are around leadership and training and sales and marketing and, a whole variety operational flow and a whole series of things. Tell us a little bit about kind of the highlights of that and how it got you where you are right now.
As far as the highlights, I think one of the very first experiences, I'm gonna go way back. I'm gonna go back when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My grandfather, he was a logger up in northern Arizona, southern Utah area in the States, and it was just he and I, and it was an afternoon, and we had a piece of equipment. It was a grader, a blade, and it needed to be moved from one landing to another. And again, I'm 6 years old about, and he says, I'm going to drive this piece of equipment. He says, you need to drive the service truck behind me. And he grabs his lunchbox, he puts it underneath me in the seat so where I can actually, see over the dashboard. And then he gives me a quick lesson about a clutch and about the brake. And he says, if you get in any trouble, just make sure you steer into the mountain and not toward the downhill side. And from that day, I mean, it's been a lot of fun growing up in an entrepreneurial family and those types of things. As you mentioned, being around that type of environment kind of led me to some of the things that I've done in my life. So kind of from that aspect, I went and did my mechanical engineering degree, and I also did my business degree. I started out doing some work in Department of Defense, so it was extremely technical. The things that we were doing in regards to the secret nature of things and developing new products for defense work, right? All of those types of things were very, very fun. We'd go out and we'd blow things up, and it's kind of like July 4th, but you get to do it for work, right? And destroy stuff. And so from that, I actually went into some other types of construction design for engineering design for big, large operations and plants for mining around the world, things of that nature. And so part of that I got put on with doing what they call, capital cost estimating and the procurement side of things, the logistics side of things. When you have pieces of equipment that cost, hundreds of millions of dollars just to be able to put a system and a process together, and then you have to logistically order those things so that they can be built over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period, and then they've got to be shipped to their location, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and there's no roads or infrastructure to be able to handle those types of things. So I've been around. I've been able to see those types of things. I've been in about 15 different countries. Luckily, I do speak 2 languages, Spanish and English. So I've been able to live and associate with a whole bunch of different people, different philosophies, different ways of life, different cultures. And then, from that, I've actually done a number of different startups myself, where I've participated as one of the primaries, as well as, kind of secondaries. I've had to go out and, get private equity money and bring private equity money back into for the startup. We've done manufacturing where we're bringing in various parts and things from other countries to be able to bring our side of the technology and mix and combine with those. So a lot of what I've done, and in the meanwhile, I mean, you already know, I decided to just throw real estate in there, right? So got my license in real estate and all those types of things. So there's a whole breadth of variety that I've experienced in my life, that's as I bring all of those things in under one roof, and I start to think my passion, going back to kind of your first question, is around the entrepreneur. I believe that entrepreneurial passion, that love and that desire for just capitalism and being able to go out and build something with your own 2 hands and reap those rewards. I mean, to me, that is the culmination of what we all want, right? Whether you choose to make blue or red or green, like, it doesn't matter. Just the fact that you can go do it, that's the important aspect. And so I love being able to take all of my experiences and all of the networks of different types, styles, and peoples, and just bring that all together to be able to promote entrepreneurialism and growth in that regards.
Wow. Again, I've known you a while, and some of those stories I hadn't heard. So the lunch bucket, I'm never going to give up. I'm kind of with that one. So let's go from there. And obviously, engineering and defense and the lunch bucket, and all the 16 countries and so on and so forth. Now, about 3 years ago, you got certified in CRO thinking. How has that come together with all the other things that you've done?
I have, I met you a little bit before the
Yep.
certification, and we had some on and off, and probably like many of the people, maybe even watching this video, I was receiving your notices, your LinkedIn message, about this, about that, and it's like, okay, yeah, I read that article. Well, that was kind of cool. And then one day I said, there's more to this Rick guy than I think than I think what I'm seeing. And so that's when we chose to get more further engaged and actually be certified. And really what the CRO thinking has done for me has validated a lot of the thoughts that I had, but I couldn't verbalize them. I couldn't I couldn't necessarily bring them in together in a cohesive nature. Um, to me, they were fires, they were individual fires burning, but they weren't collectively working together to make a furnace for refining. And I really believe that the CRO thinking, at least for me, has been able to focus and take in all of that information and refine it for the process of expanding and making the business actually work for me instead of me working for the business, if that makes any sense. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love the method of thoughts. I kind of go back and share another little quick story with you. Um, my wife and I, our families, we made a move here not too long ago, and when we moved in the community, there was this older woman. Her name is Brenda, and she was inviting everybody to join the pickleball club. And if you know what pickleball is, it's
Yep.
kind of like tennis and ping pong had a baby, and there's pickleball. And so I've never played it before. And I thought, well, I don't really know wooden paddles, plastic ball. How hard can it be? And got a quick education from her about what the rules are, what you do here, and those types of things. And next thing you know, Rick, I mean, uh, I've been a Division I athlete, all of those types of things, and this 60-plus-year-old grandma, I mean, she cleaned me up. I mean, she just wiped me up. She knew all the rules. She knew where to hit the ball. She knew what to do this. And next thing I know, I'm standing on the losing side, just looking over at my wife, just wondering what the heck just happened. But it's very much the same thing. I think in business, if you don't understand the rules, if you don't understand how to play the game and how it should be played, you're just going to get your lunch eaten. And CRO thinking, at least for me, that has been extremely beneficial because I can go into literally most any business and apply those principles and those fundamentals anywhere and get as you put it, the revenue generation results out of it. And that's why I absolutely love CRO thinking, as you put it.
Wow. That's excellent. And I haven't taken on pickleball yet, but now I'm going to be more careful when I do. um, so, the background, the experiences, the education, the certification. When you work with a client now, how do you think about the outcomes you want to create for them? And how should they think about the outcomes they'll get from working with you?
How they should think about the outcomes. In that regards, I think that there's various levels of outcome, right? There's clients that I've been associated with where I came in and I helped and supported, you know, a few weeks of my time over a couple months, and that was about it. That's just kind of really what they needed. That's what they wanted. Other clients, I've had a much more engaging result where, one of my clients, I was with them for almost 7 years. And so when you take into account what it is that you're actually looking for, um, in the end, the ultimate result is always going to be something of value. Whether it be in the beginning, what I call kind of short term, which is something that you're extremely good at this. I mean, you helped me with this on that short term. The very first thing you got to have is that strategy.
Yep.
And you're very familiar. I mean, heck, you wrote the book on the darn thing. So having the strategy and having those 5 questions, and having clear and decisive answers to them, it really doesn't matter what the structure and what the execution is after the fact if you don't have that solid strategy, if you don't have an understanding of that. So, the very first thing that always has to be addressed in my mind is that upfront strategy, and that can be done in very short order from a time perspective. The other aspects, the medium term and the long term, that's much more focused in your structure, in your actual execution. And some of this depends on company size, right? I mean, obviously, the larger the corporation, just the more work it's going to take to be able to trickle down. But ultimately, the end result is going to be a much more dedicated focus. Again, going back to the passion and the fires, it's going to be able to take all of those individual fires that are burning, and some of them are burning more than others, but it's going to bring them together in a very focused refinement kind of a way that will purify your business and just help it and expedite it and make it much, much better than what it is today, regardless of where it stands.
Well, in knowing you and having experience working with you, you're really good at, in our language, removing the cost of the chaos.
That is one of my favorite things because the cost of chaos, most people by definition, they think of all the things that I'm doing wrong or I'm expending wrong. Well, there's cost of chaos is a double-edged sword, right? I mean, there's all the things we're doing, but then there's also all the things we're not doing.
Yep.
And so it takes a lot of that breadth and a lot of that experience to come in and be able to say, hey, look, there's a better way to structure this. There's a better way to execute it. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And really, when like you said, when you start removing those costs of chaos, those rewards are found. They're found in the people. They're found in attitudes. They're found in the bottom line as far as your money goes. I mean, they're found all across the board, and they can be found in so many different ways. And I love the cost of chaos is definitely one of those that I love from the CRO thinking.
Well, one of the really important things about your work and the excellence of deployment and structure and execution is that's where that chaos gets ripped out, and your resources are applied in areas that really matter. So that's what's exciting when I get to watch the things you do, that I just see those results all the time. So
Yeah.
thank you for that look. So as people are watching us today and they're listening to uh, the examples and the stories and the outcomes, um, how do they know? How does somebody out there who runs a company, is about to become an entrepreneur, or somebody who's working in a company that's got chaos or has struggles with deployment and execution, how do they know if they're a really good match for you?
I think the very first aspect to that question, to answering that question, is recognizing you don't know what you don't know. And I mean, if a person can get over that hurdle, then immediately they're open, right?
Yep.
So if If you're closed, if you recognize that you're the creme de la creme and there's really not much to do, then frankly there's there's not a lot I can help with. But if you recognize that there's, and you don't have to have the answer, and that's why I use that phrase. If you don't know what you don't know, it's because you don't know it.
Right.
In that case, just knowing that there's something out there that you may not know and that you're open to receiving, that's really what CRO was for me. Is I knew that there was something out there. I couldn't quite put my fingers and wrap my arms around it, but I knew it was there. It was palpable enough, and I was close enough. I knew it was there. Maybe just call it a gut feeling.
Yep.
So very similarly, I think entrepreneurs of any type, if you've got a gut feeling that there's something there, then that's the most important first step that there is. And then once that recognition is existing and it's been manifest, then it's simply the pure desire to want to receive that. And if you want to receive it, then that's literally the ingredients that we need to work with. And once we have those ingredients, the other aspects, the strategy, and like you said, going into the deployment or the structure of how we're going to deploy
Yep.
these things, and then being able to get to the actual level of execution much deeper, then as long as you start with those few things, then absolutely we can. I've always had good success in every business and every client, and regardless of location or circumstance in the market or things of that nature, it's always had a good result as long as those first pieces, those first ingredients were
Isn't it amazing how, in a sense, those basics of, that repeatable structure that you've got really matters. And when you skip a step, how the chaos just shows up and the problems follow it or precede it.
one of the biggest misconceptions I think we have in the industry is around scaling. Oftentimes, we erroneously think that if I just throw more money at doing the same thing, if I just make more of what I'm already doing, that will equal scale. If I make 100 widgets and I make 200, well, okay, I just need to make 200 widgets to make 400. Whatever the case is, I mean, we kind of erroneously think that, I think, in industry, but around the CRO thinking and around the principles and the things that are developed through this process, you begin to understand how critically important the structure is prior to the actual execution of scalability. And that structure comes in so many different ways, and technology is wonderful and good and it blesses us in so many different ways. But I think sometimes we get too dependent on the fact, oh, well, I could just buy a software or throw out twice as many ads and all of a sudden I'm going to have twice as much business. It doesn't always work that way. In fact, if you don't have the proper structure and strategy behind it, it rarely works that way.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So now, kind of to tie some of this together, what does it mean to you and to your clients that you're part of this CRO2 community? Because the people in the community do different things. So, how does that work for you?
That I think of the old time, before technology, before vehicles and all that kind of stuff, you used to have people that gathered in villages, right? And you would gather in villages for protection. And in those villages, you'd have, a guy that did carpentry, and then another one that did, cobbling for the, shoes, and another that was your doctor, and this one over here did the bakery, and all of those types of things. What it really comes down to is a very, very sound village, that you can come into the village and be serviced on so many different aspects and get expert results on all of those different aspects. There's a couple of people that I admire, you yourself being one of those. You've got Jim out there, you've got Mary Jane out there, you've got so many different others that are so good at what they do, that I can't help but pretend that I know what they're talking about. But it's so much easier to be able to say, you know, Bob, if you really need that service, here, here's Jim, here's Mary Jane, here's Rick. And it is so much easier. It takes the pressure off of me trying to provide a service that would be mediocre when I can literally just turn to my colleague and say, you're the expert in this. Here's Bob, meet Bob. So, you build a relationship, the network grows, and as such the village grows, and so we all grow and we benefit together from that. And so I love being a part of that community, because those are true, sound, solid people, and we all have the same principles and fundamentals, beliefs, because we are, CRO thinking trained. And
Yep.
so that's really why it was designed that way, as you well know.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, this has been really, really good. And I'm sure that as people watch this, they're going, I have deployment issues. So on the bottom of the screen, we've got your CRO2 web location, and we've got your phone number. Are those the best ways for people to get a hold of you?
Correct. I mean, through the link right there, you'll have an email, you'll have the phone, and that's to me, that's the best way. I love just having a conversation. Usually, it stems into a Zoom call just like this, because, well, we don't necessarily have to get on a plane and see each other face to face, but this is a pretty close second, and so I enjoy just having those conversations, and that's really the start, is you have to have that conversation. And from that aspect, being able to come through and evaluate yourself and understand, hey, does this fit? Does it work? Does it not? Maybe so. I don't know. And until you have those conversations, uh, well, we're always guessing, right?
Well, one of the things I always enjoy about our conversations is you are a good storyteller. And so I'm now stuck with the lunchbox and the pickle uh, stories. So anybody who reaches out to you, I'm sure they're going to hear stories I haven't heard yet.
Oh,
So, Ryan, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody who joined us today. And this is an ongoing series. We'll be introducing people to other CRO2 members over time. So I thank all of you for being here today. Have a good one.
perfect. Thank you, Rick.